Hi, my name is Tanyota Mack, and I am sharing my historical context insights through three different generational perspectives. I will discuss some of the themes from Green's book, Something Must Be Done About Prince Edward County. I am an elementary teacher. I was raised in Virginia. I've taught in different school districts in Florida as well as Georgia. I've worked with students from many different backgrounds. I've taught in Title I schools. I've taught in affluent schools where football players' kids attended. I've taught in traditional schools, K through 5th grade, K through 6th grade, K through 8th grade, and I've also taught in the Department of Defense schools overseas on military bases. I haven't personally experienced segregated schools, but through my work and studies, I understand how historical events influence access and opportunity today. I interviewed two people. The first participant is a 17-year-old athlete from rural South Carolina. He stressed how important it is to understand how Black people is where they are today. He believes silence about racism comes from people refusing to accept what their ancestors did. He made a comment about not being a statistic. That shows his determination to rise above the limitations placed on Black communities. He knows many Black individuals are just as qualified, but overlooked. My second person I interviewed is a 73-year-old grandmother who was born and raised in a small town in Alabama. She shared with me that she was one of the first Black students to attend an integrated white school during her ninth grade year. The school she come from, which was a Black school, she said they had hand-me-down textbooks. They were nasty looking. She said they even had missing pages. In comparison to her new school she attended, the white school, she said the books were all nice and fresh. She said even the learning was different. It was very difficult for her. She felt that she was many years behind. The 73-year-old believes segregation created deep division and forced Black individuals to work 2 or 3 times harder for the same opportunities. She feels that only a small percentage of people have truly moved on from racist histories. She stands firm in her moral responsibility. She stated as long as she has grandchildren, she will continue to advocate and let her voice be heard. There are some overlapping themes from the interviews. Each believes silence allows injustice to continue. Everyone recognizes that unequal access to education limits opportunities. There are some differences in the experiences. The baby boomer lived through segregation and integrated a white school. I, from the generational X era, did not experience segregation firsthand, but I see its lasting impact through teaching and research. The 17-year-old experiences the modern inequality, being overlooked and fighting stereotypes. There were some generational shifts. The baby boomers survived segregation. I am still working to address the systems impacted by that history. The 17-year-old from South Carolina focuses on breaking cycles, rejecting stereotypes, and redefining the future. Historical context. The baby boomer grew up in the 50s and 60s. This was a time when segregation was still legal in many parts of the Deep South. Her schooling years took place during the civil rights movement. I grew up in the 70s and 80s after legal segregation had ended, but while many of its effects were still deeply felt in schools and the communities. The 17-year-old from the Generation Z era, He is still growing up in the 2020s. This is a time when segregation is no longer legal, but racial disparities and forms of discrimination still impact Black students. His perspective reflects the current realities, such as the social media influence, the push to break stereotypes. Impact discussion. How has historical events influenced teachers and students? Well, they still influence which students get experienced teachers, a strong curriculum, safe facilities, and enrichment opportunities. Question number 2. How has historical events influenced families? Well, division, resentment. If a parent or grandparent was denied a quality education, a safe school, or economic mobility, that loss affects the opportunities available to the very next generation. How has historical events influenced communities? Well, segregation created serious divides. Think about today's churches. Sundays are the most religious day of the week, yet they are the most segregated. Just take a look around on a Sunday. When I compare the perspectives with the history described in Something Must Be Done about Prince Edward County, I see very similar attitudes, actions, and long-term consequences. The baby boomers' experience of having to work 2 or 3 times harder reflect the same racial hierarchy and denial of opportunity that Green documents. Her story tells about the emotional and educational harm Black families faced when they were excluded from schooling altogether. I personally see how choices made decades ago still influence who gets access, who gets resources, and what expectations students face. Understanding this history does matter because it keeps us from being oblivious to the unfinished work in front of us. We must be the ones to fix what's happening in our schools, our communities, and the systems that support learning, making it equal and equitable to everyone so everyone gets a fair chance to succeed.